evening and welcome to the news on Sansad TV, the show where we focus on the most important stories of the day from India and across the world in just 30 minutes. I'm Isha Shah. Let's get started with the headlines. Delay in justice, one of the major challenges facing the country, says Prime Minister Modi, addresses law ministers in Kevadia. Prime Minister appreciates the role of Lok Adalats in speedy disposal of cases. Terrorists killed Kashmiri Pandit in Shopian. Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha says guilty will get the strictest punishment. Defence Minister underscores the importance of enhancing maritime activities, maritime security and cooperation between countries, asserts that India is committed to the implementation of a rules-based global order. US President Joe Biden calls Pakistan one of the most dangerous countries in the world, accuses Islamabad of keeping nuclear weapons without any purpose. And Prime Minister Modi congratulates the Indian women's cricket team on becoming Asian champions for the 7th time. A look now at our flash news segment. Russian President Vladimir Putin says India always advocates necessity to establish dialogue, acknowledges India's concerns regarding the Ukraine conflict. NHRC notice to Kerala's Chief Secretary and DG in case involving women missing for the last 3 months and allegedly murdered in a bizarre ritual. Army signs MOU with 11 banks for Agniveer salary package. Benefits offered are similar to defence salary package. International Day of Rural Women being celebrated today. Day is dedicated to millions of women living in remote and rural areas. Consistent efforts needed to bring India among top 10 countries in Global Innovation Index, says Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. India Post releases special cover on Sea Buckthorn as lay product under one district, one product theme. Prime Minister Modi to inaugurate the PM Kisan Samman Sammelan 2022 on the 17th of October in New Delhi. US resolution introduced urging the US President to recognize atrocities against ethnic Bengalis and Hindus by Pakistani armed forces in 1971 as a genocide. Explosion inside a coal mine in northern Turkey kills 41 people. And Scottish actor Robbie Coltrane, who played a crime-solving psychologist on TV series Cracker and the much-loved half-giant Hagrid in Harry Potter movies, dies at 72. Our top story. Prime Minister Modi on Saturday underscored the need to promote alternative dispute resolution mechanisms at the local level to ensure speedy justice to the people. He was addressing the inaugural session of the Conference of Law Ministers and Secretaries at Ekta Nagar in Kevadia in Gujarat. The Prime Minister said that existing laws should be reviewed and old and irrelevant laws should be amended or repealed with time. He added that true progress can be achieved only when the old colonial era laws are removed. The Prime Minister said that in order to improve the standard of living of the people, the centre has removed 32,000 provisions in the last 8 years.
बीते 8 वर्षों में भारत के नागरिकों से सरकार का दबाव हटाने पर हमारा विशेष जोर रहा है। आप भी जानते हैं कि देश ने 1,500 से ज्यादा पुराने और अप्रासंगिक कानूनों को रद्द कर दिया है। इनमें से अनेक कानून तो गुलामी के समय से चले आ रहे हैं। इनोवेशन और ईज ऑफ लिविंग के रास्ते से कानूनी अड़चनों को हटाने के लिए 32,000 से ज्यादा कंप्लायंसेस भी कम किए गए हैं.
The Prime Minister described alternative dispute resolution as one of the many initiatives to avoid delay in justice and appealed to states to promote it. Let's listen in.
समर्थ राष्ट्र और समृद्ध समाज के लिए संवेदनशील न्याय व्यवस्था एक अनिवार्य शर्त होती है. इसलिए मैंने हाई कोर्ट के मुख्य न्यायाधीशों की संयुक्त बैठक में अंडर ट्रायल्स का विषय उठाया था. मेरा आप सबसे आग्रह है कि केसों के स्पीडी ट्रायल के लिए राज्य सरकार द्वारा जो कुछ किया जा सकता है वो जरूर करें. विचाराधीन कैदियों को लेकर भी राज्य सरकारें पूरे मानवीय दृष्टिकोण के साथ काम करें ताकि हमारी न्याय व्यवस्था एक मानवीय आदर्श के साथ आगे बढ़े.
And moving on to news from poll-bound Himachal Pradesh now, where Home Minister Amit Shah released the BJP's election song for the assembly elections. He said that Prime Minister Modi had demonstrated strong willpower in ending the 55-year struggle of Hati community in Giri area of Sirmaur district of Himachal Pradesh to get tribal status. Addressing a public meeting in Sirmaur, the Home Minister said that the decision will benefit more than 1 lakh people across 154 panchayats. He added that under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, Himachal Pradesh has left no stone unturned in any field to secure the gains of development for its people.
हाटी समुदाय को ट्राइबल का स्टेटस दे दिया, वो लगे दलित लोगों को उकसाने के लिए हमारे अनुसूचित भाइयों बहनों को कि आपका चला जाएगा. कोई डरने की जरूरत नहीं है. मैंने मेरी पेन से लिखकर सभी दलित समाज के लोगों को सुरक्षित किया.
And news from the valley now, where in an incident of suspected targeted killing in Jammu and Kashmir, a Kashmiri Pandit was shot dead by terrorists in the Shopian district of the state. Puran Krishna was attacked near his residence in South Kashmir district. Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha condemned the killing. Security forces cordoned off the entire area and launched a search operation to nab the terrorists.
कश्मीरी पंडित को पूरन जी को मारा गया है और उनकी मृत्यु हो गई है. हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि इसका रीजन क्या है. इन्वेस्टिगेशन में जो भी चश्मदीदों की ओर से आया है कि टारगेट करने वाला एक ही था जो इस पे सामने था. आगे पीछे अगर कहीं कोई छुपा हो वो तो अभी किसी ने स्पॉट किया नहीं है. तो चीजें अभी चल रही हैं और चीजें अभी क्लियर हो जाएंगी.
Now, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has said that making the defence sector self-reliant and keeping the borders safe are important to make a powerful nation. Addressing the 18th meeting of the Asian Coast Guard Agency in New Delhi, the Defence Minister said it has always been India's belief that ocean space should be respected for the benefit of humanity in an environmentally sustainable manner. He added that India's defence exports have increased significantly in recent years.
That the Government of India is committed to implement the international regulations, enact legislation for maritime safety and security, establish cooperative mechanism with nations and engage in capacity building of maritime law enforcement agencies. India is also encouraged by the effectiveness of agreements like Regional Cooperation Agreement for combating piracy and armed robbery against ships in Asia. We consider mutual cooperation alone as the most effective way for ensuring safety and security.
And in another engagement, Prime Minister Modi chaired the meeting of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research Society, that is the CSIR, today. The meeting reviewed the activities of CSIR and deliberated on its future programs. Prime Minister Modi is the chairman of the CSIR. Union Ministers Dr. Jitendra Singh and Piyush Goyal were also present at the meeting. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman asserted that India is one nation that has performed well in the world of uncertainty. Addressing the ongoing annual meeting of the World Bank and the IMF, Sitharaman said India recorded a GDP growth of 13.5% on an annual basis in the first quarter of the 2022-23, the highest rate among the major economies. Now, India on Saturday termed the latest Global Hunger Index report as an erroneous measure of hunger after India's ranking slipped to the 107th position out of 121 countries in 2022. The Union Ministry of Women and Child Development said that it suffers from serious methodological issues. It added that 3 out of the 4 indicators used for calculation of the index are related to health of children and cannot be representative of the entire population. It further stated the 4th and most important indicator estimate of proportion of undernourished population is based on an opinion poll conducted on a very small sample size of 3,000. It also stated that not only is the report disconnected from ground reality, but also chooses to deliberately ignore efforts made by the government to ensure food security for the people, especially during the COVID pandemic. And time now to take a quick look at some more stories from across the nation. G.N. Sai Baba, former Delhi University professor who is serving a life term for Maoist links, will remain in jail, the Supreme Court said today. Suspending the Bombay High Court's order on his acquittal, the top court sought responses from Sai Baba and the other accused on a plea moved by the Maharashtra government against the High Court order and listed the matter for hearing on the 8th of December. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met foreign policy experts in Egypt's capital, Cairo. His 2-day visit is aimed at exploring new initiatives in India's partnership with the key African country. Jaishankar is visiting the country at the invitation of his Egyptian counterpart. Police said an IED weighing 18 kg was recovered in Bandipora Sopor Road. They further added that the bomb disposal squad had been informed while the vehicular movement on the highway had been halted as a precautionary measure. The IED was about 18 kgs, which was fitted with 2 gas cylinders. ISRO's LV-M3 rocket is set to enter the global commercial launch service market by sending into orbit 36 broadband satellites of the British startup OneWeb. The liftoff is scheduled from Sriharikota in Andhra Pradesh on the 23rd of October. LV-M3 or Launch Vehicle Mark III is ISRO's heaviest rocket. LV-M3 was earlier called Geosynchronous Satellite Launch Vehicle Mark III. The President, Vice President and Prime Minister Modi paid tribute to former President APJ Abdul Kalam on his birth anniversary. Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam is popularly known as the Missile Man of India. The scientist and scholar served as the 11th President of India from 2002 to 2007. And time now for a short break in the bulletin. Lots more coming up on the other side. Do stay tuned.
स्त्री कभी हारती नहीं है, उसे हराया जाता है।
समाज क्या कहेगा यह बोलकर उसे बचपन से डराया जाता है।
पर अब समय बदल गया है, औरत उठाएगी अपनी वॉइस।
या अपना आसमां में इस बार का मुद्दा मेरी मर्जी, माय बॉडी माय चॉइस। देखना ना भूलिए अपना आसमां, सोमवार शाम 6 बजे संसद टीवी पर।
I would say as a personality, yes, he's a no-nonsense man, understands the larger picture extremely well and is not afraid of speaking his mind.
We have somebody who is now the CDS, who the considered opinion in informed military circles is.
With his vast experience in different fields and different walks of life, his understanding as the military advisor to the NSA, his understanding of larger than just the military or the MOD things.
Welcome back. Time now for all the updates from the Russia-Ukraine war front. The Biden administration will send Ukraine a new $725 million weapons package and other military assistance, the White House said today. NATO leaders from Europe and around the world have already pledged weapons and air defense systems to Ukraine. The US aid is largely aimed at restocking thousands of rounds of ammunition for the weapons systems that Ukraine is using in its counter-offensive against Russia. Russia's defense ministry said that it hit all designated targets in the Monday missile attack on Ukrainian military, communications and energy infrastructure. Russia said that the goals of the strikes had been achieved in one of the largest coordinated Russian attacks against Ukraine since the first weeks of what Moscow calls its special military operation. The UN said that sizable allegations of torture have been reported in the Ukraine conflict. It also noted that the window of victims to bring cases before the European Court of Human Rights ended in September. Families and comrades of Ukrainian servicemen killed in battle gathered at a cemetery outside Kharkiv for a ceremony honoring defenders of the nation. During the ceremony, an Orthodox priest prayed for the dead as mourning families and servicemen stood in silence by their graves. The US State Department said that it is disturbed by an Associated Press investigation that found Russian officials deporting thousands of Ukrainian children, some orphaned, others living with foster families or in institutions, to be raised as Russian. Russia claims that these children don't have parents or guardians to look after them, or that they can't be reached. Ukrainian President Zelensky said in his nightly address on Friday that Russia was in an atmosphere of hopelessness. He said that they still have the opportunity to terrorize our cities and all Europeans, blackmail the world, but they have no chance and they won't because Ukraine is moving forward. The Belarusian Defense Ministry shared footage of what it said were the first echelons with Russian troops who are part of the regional grouping of soldiers arriving to the Republic of Belarus. According to the ministry's press service, the decision to create the regional grouping of troops was being implemented solely in the interests of strengthening the protection and defense of the state border. And now, news from some other parts of the globe. US President Joe Biden on Saturday called Pakistan one of the most dangerous countries in the world for possessing nuclear weapons without any purpose. President Biden's remarks came at the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee reception in Los Angeles. He was talking about US foreign policy on China and Russia. Biden's remarks are a setback to the Shahbaz Sharif government's efforts to improve its relations with the United States. The comments came 2 days after the release of the US National Security Strategy that made no mention of Pakistan. And time now to take a look at a World Wrap segment. Chinese President Xi Jinping is due to deliver a report at the Chinese Communist Party Congress on Sunday that will set economic, trade and technology goals for at least the next 5 years. Challenges facing the party include the tariff war with Washington, curbs on access to Western technology, a shrinking and aging workforce, the rising cost of Beijing's anti-COVID strategy and high debt. An explosion in a coal mine in Turkey's northern Bartın province on Friday killed 40 people. Search and rescue operations were continuing for one missing miner. 58 of the 110 people working in the mine when the blast occurred were rescued by the teams or got out by themselves. The incident reportedly took place 350 meters below ground. Britain's new finance minister Jeremy Hunt has said some taxes will have to go up, signaling another abrupt policy U-turn by Prime Minister Liz Truss, who is battling to save her leadership just over a month into her term. Truss had earlier fired Kwasi Kwarteng as a Chancellor of the Exchequer on Friday in a bid to appease financial markets that have been in turmoil for the past 3 weeks. Pakistan's new finance minister Isha said he will seek rescheduling of $27 billion worth of non-Paris Club debt, largely owed to China, but will not pursue haircuts as part of any restructuring. In an interview in Washington, D.C., Dar ruled out the possibility of a default on Pakistan's debt, an extension of the maturity date on bonds due in December, or a renegotiation of Pakistan's current IMF program. Continuing strikes at Total Energies Group refineries in France seriously disrupted fuel supplies on Friday after the left-wing CGT union rejected a deal over a pay increase that two other unions had agreed to. Long lines of cars could be seen across France as motorists waited, sometimes for hours, to fill up. About 30% of France's gas stations are experiencing temporary shortages, with the Paris area and northern France most affected. Now, on World Food Day, nearly 700 million people around the world will go to bed on an empty stomach, according to the UN's World Food Programme. In East Africa, which has seen 3 years without proper rainfall, close to 20 million people are facing food shortage due to drought. Widespread locust infestations in 2020, which destroyed crops, has added to the food crisis. Let's take a look at this report.
As each week passes with no rain, families are finding it increasingly difficult to survive in Kitui County, away from Nairobi. Earlier this year, the UN's Environment Programme said some parts of Kenya, Somalia, Djibouti and Ethiopia were experiencing the driest conditions and hottest temperatures since satellite record keeping began. UNEP says the African continent as a whole contributes just 3% of global emissions. Yet it says the continent is unfairly bearing the heaviest burden of climate change, with heat waves, droughts and other catastrophic weather events. In Kenya alone, 4.1 million people require food assistance, and 1.1 million of this are in an emergency situation, says the WFP. Families have experienced 3 years in a row with little rain. With a kilogram of maize going for 83 cents and a litre of cooking oil at $3.31, rising food prices and shortages are forcing many into the forests to hunt and scavenge for fruit and meat to feed their families. The World Food Programme says the number of people seeking emergency assistance in the region over the last couple of years has grown by millions, especially those who live in areas known as arid and semi-arid lands. According to the World Food Programme, 20 million people will soon be impacted with the drought situation. World Food Day is marked globally each year on 16th October. Bureau Report, Sansad TV.
And time now for all the latest from the world of sports. The Indian girls have done it once again. India thrashed Sri Lanka by 8 wickets in the final to win the Women's Asia Cup trophy for the 7th time. Renuka Singh with the ball and Smriti Mandhana with the bat were the star performers. Pacer Renuka Singh, who was declared the player of the match, was instrumental in India restricting Sri Lanka to a mere 65 for 9 in 20 overs. Renuka took 3 for 5 in the 3 overs that she bowled. Vice-captain Smriti Mandhana, who had a below-par tournament according to her lofty standards, chose the right platform to score 51 not out of just 25 balls with 6 fours and 3 sixes. Smriti's innings helped India reach the target in just 8.3 overs. All-rounder Deepti Sharma, who scored 94 runs and took 13 wickets in the tournament, was declared the player of the tournament. A month before the World Cup begins in Qatar, Brazilian superstar Neymar goes on trial in Spain over alleged irregularities in his transfer to Barcelona nearly a decade ago. And India suffers 0-3 defeat to Morocco out of quarter-final race in FIFA Women's Under-17 World Cup. This was the maiden win for Morocco in the tournament. And with that, it's a wrap of this bulletin this weekend. Stay tuned to Sansad TV for all the latest updates round the clock. Do share with us your feedback on our social media platforms. Thank you for watching. Good night.